Let's talk about Basel III norms. Reserve Bank of India has released guidelines yesterday to take that topic forward. We are now joined by Mr. P.K. Bansal, Executive Director with IDBI Bank, and Ashwin Parekh, Partner and National Leader of Global Financial Services with EY. Gentlemen, good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. Ashwin, you go first. I'm going to start with a very simple question. Do you think the Indian banking sector is ready to implement Basel III?
Let's look at this question, in two parts. One is the banking system in India, of course, has been far more robust compared to, let's say, because it's an isolated kind of a banking system, serving only the domestic requirements, largely, I should say, and therefore, to that extent, only the domestic pressures and pulls impact, both the performance and the capital of the Indian banking. But all said and done, the preparedness should be there. There are two parts to the preparedness. Overall, in the next 5 years, the Indian banking will require about $60 billion of funds or capital, to really meet with the Basel III requirements as now laid out by the RBI. Out of this, almost about 38 to about 39 billion will be required by public sector banking. Now, when it comes to preparedness, both these sectors, I mean the private sector banking and the public sector banking, will have to really start preparing for mobilizing that kind of capital. One or two things are becoming certain. The return on equity from the banking system, by and large, on account of the larger capital requirement, will come down. And this capital requirement will have to be in common equity, which is tier 1 capital. So therefore, to that extent, both the dividend policy as well as the mobilization of further capital will be under pressure. But I mean, looking at the financial performance of the Indian banking, I should say it should be capable of doing that. The government, of course, will have to work out some way in which it will put this required 38 to 39 billion of capital, if it has to hold that 51% of the threshold investment in the public sector banking.
Right, Mr. Parekh, so I think the underlying point that you brought up is that higher capital requirements are certainly required for the implementation of these norms. So, Mr. Bansal, wanted to come to you. Do you believe that the earnings of most of the banks are likely to come under pressure on the back of this high capital requirement?
No, let us understand two things. One is, even if there is a higher capital requirement, how the earnings comes under pressure, I don't understand. If you are talking of ROE, as Mr. Parekh was saying, yes. I mean, at some stage, the ROE could go down, because what is happening is today the banks have been providing capital through tier 1 instruments and tier 2 instruments also. And under these norms, actually, it will be more of core equity. So naturally, the ROE could be under pressure. But then you have a time. You have time from 2013 to 2018. So RBI has given enough time. So I don't think that issue is there. As far as the other part is concerned, whether they can meet the requirement, let me say today most of the banks have capital adequacy of more than 12% or so, most or maybe 11.5% or so overall. And RBI has required 6% tier 1 since long, while the Basel III starts with let us say 4.5, it goes to 7% finally. Even if you add capital conservation buffer, it goes to 2.5%, but that is in 2018. So I think banks are capable of meeting that requirement as of now.
Ashwin, if I look at the current environment, Government of India is clearly struggling to capitalize the jewel in the crown, which is State Bank of India. LIC has helped other banks in order to reach their capital requirement needs. Who will fund the capital requirement for some of these banks at a time when the government fiscal situation is slightly sticky?
No, exactly. I mean, on one side, we may sort of, bask in with the assumption that the capital will be easily available and we are well prepared. But at the same time, I mean, the real question is that already, almost 9 out of 19 public sector banks and State Bank of India are facing the crunch. I mean, let's not forget that the crunch arises out of two reasons. One is there is an economic growth, there is therefore a credit expansion. Now, in order to fund that credit expansion, the banking system requires capital. So that's one part. Added to that will also be the quality of the capital which has to be brought in common equity. So we can't really rely too much on tier 2 capital any longer. This capital will have to be brought in the form of common equity basically.
Mr. Parekh, if you could also just highlight for us what you think would be, which banks would be more impacted? Would it be the PSU lot or the private banking lot?
Well, to be very honest, two things are bound to happen. One is the return on equity, the ROE numbers of the banking system on account of the expanded capital are bound to, because after all you are having a certain profitability and you have a larger equity. So the ROE numbers, which in turn has an issue on mobilizing capital basically. So both the sectors will face equal difficulty, but with the deficit, let's say, issues on hand, you know, the funding from the public for the public sector banking can become even more difficult.
Right. Mr. Bansal, if you indeed have to implement Basel III norms at IDBI, what do you think you need to do immediately, and how are you likely to map, you know, your future targets?
Yeah. So first of all, we have to implement Basel III. In fact, there is no choice or anything with any bank. So IDBI Bank also has to implement. Let me see that we have prepared ourselves for implementation even before these norms came. We had a bond of 2,130 crore, which was tier 1 bonds. We requested government to convert that into equity, so that has already been converted into equity. So some sort of a tier 1 bond, say an IPDI type instrument, we have already got converted to common equity. So we are already on that job, and today we are fully compliant with even Basel III, all the norms as far as the capital adequacy part is concerned. There are two issues which I think RBI has yet to clarify. One is on that counter-cyclic buffer that will come into kick in, I think, from 15 to 18. The other one is the, I think, liquidity ratio. Otherwise, if you really look into all other instruments, we are well prepared and we have taken into account even Basel III norms while projecting our budget and medium-term business plan. So I don't find any issue today, except that what you are saying, we already converted something into equity, so the ROE may get slightly lower. But if you really look at the other way, I just wanted to add one more point. Most of the banks in public sector also have ROE ranging between 14 to 15%, and some are then slightly higher. If the growth in the economy restricts to about 15% credit growth, then I think most of them will be satisfied even with the profitability. So the only issue comes when the credit grows above 15%. I think then the banks normally need additional capital, so then they may require more capital.
Ashwin, have you done some numbers on what could be the total capital requirement for the banking sector on two accounts? One, because of Basel III implementation. B, because of the economic growth.
Yeah, see, I mean, there are two parts to this. One is if I just look at pure Basel III and then just look at, you know, the RBI recommendation. So if you believe that the growth in the credit is going to be, say, almost stagnant, in which case we are looking at 60 billion, which is almost about $20 billion each year. Added to this will be the additional capital requirement arising out of the economic growth. So even if I take an economic growth for the next 5 years, at say 7 to 7.5% of the GDP, and this is the evaluation we've done at Ernst & Young. So we find, you know, that the additional capital requirement arising out of the credit expansion, which may hit the banking system a little sharply towards the end of this period. By that I mean between the 2012 and 2017 or 2018 period that the RBI is really covering in the Basel III guidelines. The banking system will be hit with more requirements by about 2016-2017. It would go upwards of about 27 to 28 billion each year. So we are looking at the $60 billion number purely arising out of Basel III, growing to about 80 to 85 billion by the end of 2018. If you put both together, the Basel III norms as well as the credit expansion at a rate of about 7 to 7.5% of GDP growth.
Ashwin, so let me ask you a market-dominated question. Fund managers and investors who currently are invested in banks or financial stocks, do you think they need to panic because of Basel III norms?
Not really. I mean, to be very honest, you know, there are two parts to the performance of the banking system. One is the return, and the second is the quality of the capital that it is going to hold, and therefore to that extent a reduction in the risk, that the portfolio holders or the investors will have to really look at. So I'm particularly clear in my mind that whereas the profitability may get distributed over a larger capital, but the quality of that profit on one side and the risk, let's say, that the banks will face or the investors will take on the banking will certainly reduce because more capital will be available with the banking system. So to that extent, there is no need for them to panic. And this phenomenon is going to be worldwide. Basel III is a worldwide phenomenon. So the banking system worldwide. So, I mean, investors will have to look at new expectations on new returns from the banking system arising out of Basel. This will happen perhaps more after 2014, 2015, I should say.
And finally, Mr. Bansal, experts are saying that private sector banks, they'll make a smooth transition to raise capital easily, but public sector banks would perhaps need capital infusion by the government. Do you think that you would perhaps, that this would perhaps be one of the requirements for some of these public sector banks, that they would resort to this?
And I will, I think, take this into two parts. See, when we are basically clubbing them together, private sector banks and public sector banks, there are, I think, different banks in public sector, there are different type of banks in private sector also. Some of the bigger private sector banks have already raised, I think, enough equity, so they may not need it. But there are a number of old private sector banks, plus I think smaller private sector banks, they will certainly need more equity. So you can't just say that private sector banks are, I think, more comfortable. As far as public sector banks are concerned, there also I think you have to understand that which bank is having a higher ROE, plus I think what is the type of growth. I think some of the banks are very comfortable out of 1920 if you really see all the banks. And some banks do have some pressures, and especially those banks who have been depending more on IPDI and Tier 2 bonds. I think each bank has to work out, but keeping in view that government holding now has gone up above 58% almost in every bank. So they do have some scope, I think, to bring it down up to 51 and raise some money from the market. So I think everyone will have to take that. And I don't think any big worry on that. Let us understand another thing. Internationally, all the banks were technically required only a equity of common equity of 2%. In fact, in India, it was always 6% Tier 1, and within Tier 1, it was almost like 80% was Tier 1, common equity. So it was roughly about 5% minimum. So I think banks, Indian banks were already that comfortable that way comparatively.